All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am Emma Toops, and I am the Executive Chair for American Warriors and Facilitator for the Purple Connection. This event is hosted and sponsored by Toops Consulting, LLC. David and I are connectors, coaches, and consultants in Toops Consulting, and we thank you so much for being here. Welcome especially to our first-time attendees to this event. For our new attendees, thank the person who invited you. They felt you might benefit and contribute by being part of this community. And to our regulars, it's good to see you again. Next slide. Here is the event agenda. I'm doing the welcome now. I'll start with an intro to American Warriors and the Purple Connection. And then I'll introduce the educational networking program, which is where our panelists will each have their turn to speak. That'll be followed by a 15-minute Q&A, and then I will provide some transition tips, and then share some ways for getting involved with American Warriors, do some future event announcements, and then start wrapping up the event. So an introduction to American Warriors and the Purple Connection. American Warriors is a special interest group in the ACA Business Club, which is a private club with the philosophy that business flows out of relationships. People do business with those that they know, like, and trust. Thus, members are committed to creating solid connections by learning and practicing the fundamentals of strategic networking and relationship building. American Warriors are club members then who have an affinity with or support those who have served our country in military or public service. The mission statement for American Warriors is that we provide educational and networking opportunities for patriotic citizens who are leaders in business, and we support the transition into private and public sector business of active duty service members and first responders. The Purple Connection is one vehicle that American Warriors fulfills its mission. So the challenges of transitioning from the military is a very well-researched problem. It's evident by the multitude of military support nonprofits and community organizations that provide services to address them. Driving Community Impact was a white paper published in April of 2015 by the IVMF of Syracuse University. And in that research study, they determined after several years of research and thousands of surveys that the leading gap in services was not that there was a lack of them, but that there was a lack of connectedness of the services and support. Very often, transitioning military feel a loss of purpose. They may feel isolated or misunderstood, or they feel overwhelmed for their need of help, but are disconnected or lack affinity to the people and culture of their new environment. So how do you solve it? You create a partnership of stakeholders who have a common goal for supporting American Warriors. The Purple Connection is a community of partnered stakeholders with a common focus of service, support, and care so that we can effectively address the challenges of transition. So what's up with the name? Okay, there's actually two reasons for it. In government jargon, the color for joint is purple. When our military is operating overseas on a deployment, that environment is comprised of a seemingly disparate multitude of organizations and individuals with varying purposes, but they have a common purpose through the operation that unites and focuses their effort. The Purple Connection is an attempt to replicate this type of joint environment to support the American Warrior in transition. Another reason is that when you combine the colors of red and blue, you get the color purple. In the Purple Connection, we are facilitating the connection of individuals who identify more closely to either the military community or the military support and business community. And when they come together, it's a Purple Connection. Here are the Purple Connection's mission and vision. We create awareness to enable access, and then empower action through collaboration and encouragement to expedite reintegration, support growth and healing, and also to enable opportunities. We do this by regularly bringing together community experts and then facilitating connections through educational networking. Here is the rules of engagement for our panel program and networking. Each participant will have 8 minutes to deliver their remarks. I will be using a timer. The time can be stopped short and given back for Q&A specific to that individual or used up entirely by the panelist. However, when the timer goes off, please wrap up your remarks and we'll move on to the next presenter. Once each presenter has spoken, there'll be 15 minutes for a Q&A with the TPC community. If you're uncomfortable with public speaking, you can remain anonymous with your question. You can put it into the chat channel private, and I will ask it for you. Questions are not limited to the topic of the day, which is communication vehicles, but take advantage of the expertise available from our panelists this month. Please be succinct in your questions and direct them to a specific panelist or to the community if it is a more general transition question. If you have a complicated question, you may ask it to discover if there's a subject matter expert in the room, but if a response would take longer than 2 minutes to respond to it, I would recommend that follow-up be done after the event. After the Q&A, I will provide transition tips, which are an educational segment for a paradigm or process shift or recommendation possibly to resources that apply to the topic of the day. After the presentations, if you haven't already, share in the public chat your contact information and how you serve or need support from the community. The chat will be saved and all attendees will get a cleaned up copy in a future email so you can follow up with each other as you like. I'll do event announcements and then wrap up the event. All right, so our first presenter is our veteran entrepreneur. Christopher Burnett is an Army music retiree. He and his wife, Terry, are music educators with the business and foundation. They teach and perform primarily in the Kansas City market, but they also teach virtually as well. Because of Chris's teaching schedule, he cannot present his remarks live, but he did provide us with a video for his contribution to the program today. It's a few minutes longer than the allotted 8 minutes, so there's going to be a section of it that we will skip past to keep us closer to time. David, you can go ahead and play the video. We can't hear the sound. David, we can't hear the sound. Am I the only one who can't hear it?
No, I'm not hearing it either.
Yeah, no sound.
There's a checkbox when you go to share the screen in the lower left corner that says share sound.
Copenhagen, Denmark, as it says there on the screen.
Oh, there we go.
And
now we can hear it.
This is a little gallery at the bottom of our website, a little teaser gallery that if you visit our other websites, you'll be able to see some of the adventures we've been on. And our life credo, we even named our son Micah. So, but we'll go to the top here and we'll go down and I'll show you what we've done since the military. We had a very successful career with Army music. My wife Terry served for 5 years and she got out and continued her career as an educator, teaching school. but never stopped playing her instrument. And we have 2 adult children now, and we have grandchildren, and we have 2 great-grandchildren. So this is our one sheet portal. We're based in the Kansas City area, but we've traveled all around with Army music, and we're able to transition to the civilian world as musicians, and have had a very successful career doing that, if I might say. So these are our principal websites. There's a picture of us on someone took while we were in the jump seat in the front here. An Army band bus. We were on tour in Belgium. We were staying at a Belgium Army little barracks type thing. That's where we stayed while we were there. This is a QR code for people to join our mailing list. If they click on that, that'll take them to a form if they're not somewhere where they can screenshot it. If you're looking at a website, you can do that with your phone and do that as well. So these are our primary websites. It's our family website. It's more of a blog. It isn't a genealogy thing. We have ancestry.com for that, but this is basically, and this gives you an idea that we've continued on with our life as professional musicians, you know, and recording artists. Our first recording was off-duty hours in Ansbach, that band. We got a bunch of our friends together and made an album, or we did an EP, I guess you'd call it. I did a bunch of arrangements, picked some guys, asked them if they would record, and they did. This is pictures of us with Army bands, okay, 1970s, you can tell that, so, or close to 1980 or whatever. And then teaching has become very important to both of us. This is Terry's studio in our home, but we also support the local music store, and we also teach online using Zoom and FaceTime and technology, because some kids, you know, they are not in this area and they want to still study with us, so we do that. And we have our own school of music based on stuff that we've learned, and we'll get to that a little bit later. That's pretty cool. So that's Terry's website, and you can go down each one of our sites like that as well. This is my website. It's a performing artist website, and has like all of our recordings and things like that. My calendar's normally there, and this has a snapshot gallery on this page and the contact page that gives you an idea of the kind of stuff we've done over the years. And it really feels pretty cool to basically have continued our professional career after the Army. You play so much music in the Army. During our era, Army bands average 250 to 400 gigs a year. That's performances a year. Most civilian musicians don't perform that much in 10 years that we've learned since we've been out. One of the first things that I had to get used to was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be playing someplace. There's no place to play here. What's going on? I felt unfulfilled in a sense. Then I figured it out. You have to produce everything you do out here. So, and that's pretty cool. That's one thing that you have to learn as a veteran. You have to use those skills that you learned in the Army and be a catalyst, because that's not taught generally. You inherit it, if you're lucky as a civilian person in any endeavor. You inherit that type of thing from your connections or something like that. Whereas in the military, I would say it's more of a meritocracy, and you guys are used to that. So use those skills. The community needs your skills. You know, people won't understand a lot of it, and that's cool, but don't give up. Keep doing what you do. As you see, we've done a lot of things. Licensed music, recorded, played. One of the things, been able to contribute to the Kansas City jazz scene, which is really a big deal historically with jazz music. So I'm saying that all of that not to say, look what I've done, but you've done the same thing. You know, you're really the same sort of asset to your community and to your family and to yourself. You know, so I would say don't underestimate what you have to offer. Okay, and then this is our school website. This is a publishing. Now the publishing is more extended because I have like little areas of expertise on this. This is a site that when I do clinics and things like that, and master classes, someone can come here and they can get things to use. Like if you see up here the things that are turning red, that's because my mouse is up there. They can go, that booking will take you back to my other site, so they can get in touch with me for that. But 399 is a synopsis of our military career. So if you go to burnettmusic.biz and you want to learn more after this little short presentation, you can go here and actually see and hear some of the stuff. Some friends sent me a video we did when I was with the faculty lab band, jazz lab band at the Armed Forces School of Music. Another friend sent me a recording of the NATO band when we did our first show before we went out on our very first tour when I was leading the band there. So, and this tells about the whole story of our career from beginning to end, from my voice, of course, but it'll give you pictures and things like that, and this is loading really slow. And then there's always music samples someplace on the sites, so that it gives people an idea of really, you know, what you're about, your skill set and things like this. As musicians, to have a portfolio is very important. And the reason it's important is because music, like anything, is pretty competitive. If people can't go here for themselves, you can be branded or labeled by anyone. They can say, well, he's nice, but he isn't that good, you know, or she's nice, but she isn't that good of a teacher, blah, blah, blah. But if they can go to your website and actually see who you are professionally, that helps. So I recommend, in addition to anything you have on social media, and that's another discussion, but social media is one of those things that that you're not in control of. Like this website, I'm in control of it. As you see, we have a mailing list that people can join, so we can directly touch people without going through the filters of social media and all the drama over there. But we use social media because it's a platform that we're connected with people that we've known for decades that we aren't in contact physically with, but then they can keep track of what we're doing and maybe even participate in some of the things that we're doing. Burnett Music Foundation has 4 projects, a record label that we had to start. We do an educational jam session where we work with young people. The artists on the label do that. We get sponsorships. Bird Boot Camp, it celebrates the great Charlie Parker. And then Kansas City Area Youth Jazz is a young artist program for the next generation of jazz musicians here, high school and college able musicians who are really high quality, the best of their generation here, and it's an audition only thing here. We have a jazz magazine called Jazz Artistry Now that we do commentary and reviews. All of these non-profit programs and memberships, affiliations. These are professional memberships that, you know, just like USAA would be, or the Association of the United States Army would be, you know, and affiliations. This is a Association of Military Musicians down here, all the military's down here. Women's Army Corps veteran and United States Army retired. We're lifelong artists. As you see, here we are again. And I would say that the biggest skills that helped me transition were, of course, technical, and doing it for so long and being very, very good at what you do, because you always had to be competent in the Army. You all know that. Was the leadership and management of company items, whatever ancillary skills you learn from that and collateral duties you have, that's going to run your business. The next thing I would say is, remember, you're not going to have a professional staff if you've worked with a professional staff. Your family is not a professional staff. They love you. I learned that lesson in one of the first businesses I did, is expecting the same results I did from my troops. But don't give up on yourself. Think of service and you'll be all right. A pleasure meeting you. Reach out to me at burnettmusic.biz, and God bless. Have a good one. Bye now.
All right. Sorry for the little bit of a technical glitch there, but I think for not being here, Christopher was able to impart quite a little bit of of understanding of him and his business. So thank you, David, for playing that for us. We're going to move on to our next presenter. Next is our community organization. Mike Petry, or Petry, is the executive director for Operation Community Cares. He's located in California and has a computer services business for his occupation. Today, he will talk about how Operation Community Cares supports our deployed military members.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start a timer here on my end too, so that I don't run over. So I want to give you a little bit of history of our organization. Back in 2003, Ryan Orr, who was our founder, who is a civilian, ran into a soldier who'd come home from Iraq. And the soldier was telling him some of the things that they didn't have. And he thought, you know, there's got to be something we can do about this. Let's get them some of these, you know, comfort items, if you will. And so he went and bought a bunch of the yellow ribbon car magnets and resold those to raise funds. And the first pack event that he held was in his garage, and they packed 50 care packages that went out to local military deployed from our neighborhood, basically. And then over the years, it grew. Next year will be our 20th anniversary, so we'll be having a banquet in the summer, and I'm hoping to honor Ryan and his family, who were a big part of the organization for the majority of its time. But in 2008 was when I first met Ryan. Met him at the local Chamber of Commerce, and he was talking about a PAC event. And my wife and I, both civilian, had always appreciated the military and thought this would be a great way to give back. And so we went to the event, and I was completely blown away. There were hundreds of people there to pack the boxes. We ended up doing just over 600 boxes that particular event. We just thought it was wonderful. We had our daughter with us. At the time, she was only 8 years old, and she took over stacking the boxes. After they were all done and ready, she developed a system of how she wanted them stacked to get loaded into the truck. And so as the years went on, we got more and more involved. My wife started baking cookies. My mother started baking cookies. My parents would come and fill out the address labels. In 2018, Ryan and his vice president at the time, a gentleman named Brent Bruce, who also was the acting secretary and treasurer, they both had 4 children, and they were all getting involved in all kinds of activity, and they would no longer be able to do it. And so they were either going to shut it down and say it had been a good run, they were going to merge it with another larger organization, or they'd have to find somebody new to lead it. And so that's when I stepped up. My daughter was just getting ready to go off to college, so I figured I might have a little more free time. And so I took the organization over. In the course of all that time, we became a 501c3, so we are officially a nonprofit. We, to this day, are still all volunteer. There's not a single person who gets any money from the organization. We keep our overhead as low as possible. So currently it's running about $400 a month. And that's for the basics: a small storage unit, a post office box, QuickBooks, and a few other software items that we use to run day-to-day operations. But the more volunteers we get, the more we can do. We do have volunteer meetings first Monday of every month. With the exception of July, it got bumped from 4th of July, and in September, it'll get bumped for Labor Day. So it'll be the second week. But we're constantly juggling 3 things that we need. One, we need names and addresses. One of my fears is that someday we'll get this huge list of names and addresses of people wanting care packages and have no way to fulfill it. So we're trying to balance that and get enough names and addresses for what we have. We try to get as many items as we can, and a lot of the items get donated by the local schools, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and then just individuals. We'll have families show up with bags of donated items right before our PAC event. And then, of course, the funds to ship them. And it runs about $20 a box to ship. Our next big event will be November 19th in Rancho Cucamonga, California. There's a local church that lets us use their community center. We'll have hundreds of volunteers show up, and our goal will be 1,000 boxes. And our rule of thumb is if it's somebody from our local area and they're deployed somewhere stateside but far from home, we'll send them 1 box because we want them to know they're loved. Even though they can go down to the corner and get what they need, we still want them to get the letters of support and the items, telling them how much we love them. If they're overseas, we try to send at least 2 boxes per person, usually 1 box of toiletry items and 1 box of snack food type items. And so that's pretty much what we do. And we're always looking for support on any of those 3 things: the names and addresses, the items. A lot of people now will donate items. They'll order on Amazon and have them shipped direct to our address. I've actually got a couple of benefactors right now. Every month I go to our PO box and there's a box of microwave popcorn and a box of hot sauce packets. And the hot sauce packets vary. Sometimes it's Tapatio, sometimes it's Cholula, sometimes it's something else. So they change it up on us, but they're constantly sending those items. Also, we are on Amazon Smile. So if you go to smile.amazon.com and choose us as your charity, we get a small portion of whatever purchases you make. And when we first started, we were getting $10 to $15 every quarter. Last quarter, we actually got $80 from that. So it is growing and we're happy to see that. And I've got about 2 minutes left, but I'll yield that for any questions.
All right, I have one very specific to you. So you said that most of the things that you send are packages. Do you get names of young recruits who are at basic and just ask for people to send them letters? Because every time I've ever been to a military school, I've always loved mail call, even just to get a letter or a card.
We had primarily done care packages. We do put letters of support in there. I would certainly be open to that. If somebody let me know that they had a list of recruits, we could take some of those letters of support that we've already gathered to put in our boxes and just send them in envelopes. So absolutely, I would be open to that.
Okay, very cool. You have a question, Yamiel, you want to ask?
Indeed. So, Mike, I think I missed it. Right, your information is in the chat.
It is. I put my information
down
first, and then I put a bunch of stuff about Operation Community Cares at the bottom right before I started talking.
Awesome. We're neighbors. So I'm here in California, I'm in San Marcos. So, looking forward to
nice.
Awesome. Okay. I just wanted to get your info, so we can connect. And yeah, I love the idea of Emma. We live in San Diego. You can literally go to MCRD and drop them off. I know we have done it with the chamber before. So it's something that you guys would like to do. It's a really good idea.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you.
All right. We have time for one more quick question. We've got 30 seconds on Mike's time. Anything? All right. Well, we can go ahead and move on to our third presenter. Thank you so much, Mike. That was great. Now we know a little bit more about your organization. Okay, let me reset my timer. Okay, next is our military-friendly company. Lance Martin is the owner and principal photographer for Lance Martin Photography. He specializes in headshots, but also does modeling shoots, shows, and events. Lance, you're up.
All right, thank you, everyone. So while it might seem strange that I'm here to speak today, one of the reasons why is just because there's so much communication that goes on visually these days. And a lot of that has to do with, if you're in business for yourself or if you represent a company, sometimes photography takes a part in that communication role. And I have an article here from Forbes magazine that says that corporate headshots, I could show it, but I'll just read you the quick part of it. Corporate headshots can build trust among clients. And then it goes on to talk about how in this day and age where there's, websites, social media, and all that kind of stuff, that a lot of times, even if it's something like just a headshot or marketing photos or anything like that, but with headshots in particular, people will start kind of making decisions based on who they think you are as a company or as an individual, just based off meeting you and seeing your face, or seeing your face before they even meet you online. And so one thing that you might want to know is, am I representing myself in a way that is, true to the person I want to be, or the quality of my company, or that's building trust and those sort of things. And so my assumption, and I can only assume because I'm a civilian, is that whenever you're in the military, things seem to be, and like I said, this is an assumption, but everyone seems to be on the same page. A lot of people are following the same rules, the same sort of procedures and things like that. Whereas in civilian life, you're kind of, as someone else had mentioned earlier, you're kind of left up to yourself to market yourself. And as the musician, he said that basically that, you have to promote yourself, you have to market yourself, you have to do all those sort of things. I don't remember what words he used. Whereas with the military, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Emma, but you kind of have your skill, and you have your skill set, and you have your procedure, and you operate, and everyone's pretty well on the same page as how you're going to operate and what everyone's role is. Am I pretty close there, Emma?
Yeah, there's like a standard and regulation for just about everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, someone will tell you, or will be posted on the wall. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. There is a very structured environment as far as how you show up and how do you contribute.
And so with that being said, out here, people may not always get that unless you are able to communicate properly. And so I'm assuming that those procedures cut down on miscommunications and things of that nature, and other kind of problems that could arise from that. So what you are telling other people about yourself based on how you're represented visually can be a big deal. And so, perfect example for myself, I was looking through some of I primarily shoot headshots, right? That's my kind of my main thing. And while I do a lot of other things, and what I noticed about my website here recently is I thought, that's not represented well on my website. I've got this whole range of things, even though 80% of what I do is one thing, and that's what I specialize in. That's what I'm best at. And I'm not telling people that with my website. And so I'm actually going to go in and do like an overhaul and kind of go over that, and to make sure that I'm communicating my skill set properly to the world. And my guess is that there's a gap. There may or may not be a gap for some people who are coming out of the military that may not know things like this, the things that maybe we all find out on our own, but maybe you're used to having all these procedures put in place to help you succeed. Whereas out here, you don't necessarily get that support. And so I'm thinking of some friends of mine that were in the military who have great skill sets, and hopefully, depending on your MOS, it may apply directly to what you can do right after, whenever you get out, or it might not. And maybe there's some other skills that will help you transition, but are just not as directly correlated, or as obviously correlated, I should say. And so communication is one of those things I think that can help with that. And from what I understand, the military has its whole other language and set of things. And so if you come out speaking as if you were speaking to one of your fellow veterans or something like that, and then you start talking to me, I may not know what you're talking about, and vice versa, right? And so it can kind of work that way, where I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and speak civilian to me, because I'm falling behind here, you know what I mean? And so I just think that it's just something to be cognizant of, and to make sure that if you do have a skill set, or you're acquiring a skill set, or whatever the case may be, that you are representing yourself. When I say properly, I mean effectively, I guess would be better, that you're representing yourself effectively, so that people know exactly what it is that you are good at and that you can do. Because in the military, everyone assumes you're trained, I assume, even though some people are probably better than others. Out here, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. The guy's got a website. That's all I know about him, and so you may or may not be able to make those assumptions that you can make inside a military organization. And so you kind of lose some of that out here, and hopefully that proper communication could help clear some of that up. And I think I don't know if I missed anything, but I hope that what I said makes sense. And I hope that, was that pretty spot on there, Emma, as far as, trying to understand both worlds?
Oh, sure. Give us some information about you and your business. I know
Okay.
that you didn't, start with photography as your first thing out of the gate as far as a professional career. So
No.
tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, so originally I was a geologist. I did that for a while. I had a degree in geology. And then I won't get into the whys. I'll just get into what happened. Eventually I became a teacher and I taught for a while, and that was great. And I thought that I needed to be the best teacher and know the most about science that I possibly could. There's that skill set thing, right? Just because I'm a good scientist doesn't mean I can apply it in the context that I need to as a teacher, right? Or as a photographer, doesn't matter how good I am if I can't figure out a way to explain or to talk to people to get the communication ball rolling as far as that goes. But I primarily do headshots, and it's kind of one of those things where like I enjoy working with other small businesses with or bigger businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, anyone who could benefit from that sort of thing. And sometimes I will donate, or I will donate my time or things like that to help businesses get along. Sometimes it's just a good referral thing where it's like, hey, I was able to, these people employed me to take photos to represent their company or them as a person. And I'm happy that I can bring quality or bring something to their business. So that's kind of the way to do it. And also I'm hoping to set up something with Emma to where we could maybe offer some sort of military discount for those who are wanting to transition and are looking for a career, and maybe a good headshot might help them out. And if I can, at least do a partial donation or something to make that happen, that might be just one less thing that somebody has to worry about as they're transitioning out of the military and into the civilian world.
All right, very good. One thing I must say, as far as your appearance, is when I went through the TAP class in Europe, because my last assignment was in Europe, they talked about coming to class, the last couple of days of class in business wear, because we were going to do mock interviews. And I was thinking about, oh, shoot, what is that? I don't think I have a suit. And just even having the right clothes to do a proper headshot. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Lance. The timer has gone off. And so we are complete with our panelists' remarks. What we're going to do now is some Q&A. And so we've got our two panelists here present to be able to respond to questions. And then if you have a question that you would want to ask Chris about his transition from being an Army musician into what he does today, go ahead and put it in the chat channel, and I will share those questions with him, and then I can send you his response directly. But we've got 15 minutes for a kind of an open community Q&A. Who's got a question? For whom? Anyone? I mean, it doesn't have to be about communication specifically, but just in the fact that we're about supporting those in transition from this service. Yamiel, you have a question?
I'll start the trend. I know some other people will come up too.
Okay.
I guess the question will go to Mike. I believe you're a veteran, correct? So you know what? Oh, no veteran. Okay, so you working with veterans. What would you say is the thing that you see? I guess then it would apply for you, Bolt and Lance. What is the thing that you see most commonly among veterans looking for maybe using your services? As far as that communication process, do they come to you, or is it more something that you have to go to them for outreach, or do you even do some kind of outreach directly to the active duty or veterans? Outside of course, sending the packages in the case of Mike?
Yeah, not so much other than sending the packages. They tend to be drawn to us, so they'll hear about it, whether through the chamber or through an event like this. I go do public speaking at various places. And so frequently the ones that it resonates with are veterans. And I've had them come to the PAC events. We've had a few of them that have gotten involved in leaderships positions. One of them was our main liaison between the schools. He was a Vietnam era vet. And unfortunately, he passed away last year. So we've been struggling to kind of fill that position and do it. But being volunteer positions, a lot of them are retired because we can't pay anything. And so what I've found, though, is that especially with the younger vets that'll come to a PAC day, they're there either because they remember the impact of receiving a care package, or they're there because they remember the impact of being somebody who didn't get any mail at mail call, and they want to help fill boxes so that other people won't have that. And I've had both on multiple occasions.
Awesome. And then I guess, I'll ask Lance, being in the photography world, what makes you different so that somebody, for example, in my position, I'm a 12-year Marine Corps veteran. Why do I choose you versus the next guy, right? Where is that differentiator between you and then the next guy?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question because there are a number of photographers out there. It is pretty crazy, actually. So one thing that makes me different is that I don't really do packages, and this is going to sound strange. I charge per a photo that you want. I don't charge per time. I don't charge per package. So let's say that, you're like, well, I don't want just one photo, but I don't need 5 photos. Well, we just, bam, 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 bam. And we might shoot them all. And, I shoot with my computer set up so that we can actually live view and look and review the photos as we shoot. That way it's not a surprise later or anything like that, and it's like, okay, is this the look that you're looking for? So it's sort of like, we kind of like execute, review, revise, and then go again if we need to. And that way, if someone's like, I can see that, the lighting looks great, but I don't like why am I doing this thing with my face, ear, nose, chin, whatever, we can make those corrections on the fly right there. And then I can also like help kind of coach them through that as well. The other thing is I pay attention to, here's a perfect example. I try and pay attention to what your photo is going to communicate. A lot of people, they show up, it's cookie cutter, this, snap the photo. Congratulations, you've had your photo taken. You know what I mean? And mine is kind of like, here's a good example is I took a loan officer's photo, and I said, what is it exactly you're hoping to get out of this headshot? And he said, come get a loan from me, and I said, okay, that's great. You're a loan officer, right? Well, right now you're giving me that you better pay back my loan look. And I was like, I don't think that's the look that you're trying to communicate right now, is it? You know what I mean? And so I think some people, there are a lot of great photographers who do care about the message and the story. For me, I care about, like, I want to help you tell the story that you want to tell, you know what I mean, with your shot. It's not, yes, I've got to pay bills. And so I need money as well, but I want to do it in a way that brings quality to the person and that their photo serves the purpose that they need it for, if that kind of makes sense. And so I try and just kind of cut away all the unnecessary parts and focus on the person and what their goals are. And then I adjust my photography to their needs, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Another question for Lance or Mike, or something just in general about the topic of the day? So here's one I'm going to ask to one of our audience, because I know what he does for a living. So Chase is on active duty. He's in uniform, but you are in public affairs. And so communication, use of photos, and how you present. Do you feel that has been really helpful in your transition planning for your separation? Because I know you're getting ready to retire now.
Yeah.
Is your technical skill set, like Chris, going to be very, very translatable to what you might do when you get out?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Yeah, one of the things that I'm really glad about my background as a communicator is the fact that, one, it's an easily translatable skill, and two, it automatically helps me figure out, okay, I've spent my life helping other people, helping other units and other organizations to tell their story. So now it's time to actually begin the process of telling mine. And that's absolutely something that's been on my mind in terms of, we had the old saying that the shoemaker's kids walk around barefoot. So there is a bit of a mental transition of saying, okay, now it's time to take those skills and actually make them about myself, because I'm used to, no, I'm in the background and I understand how to do all this, but I'm doing it for the benefit of another organization. I'm trying to stay in the background. So there is a little bit of introspection of, all right, how do I want to tell my story in such a way that that it stands apart from the military identity. I think it'll be a strength going forward, and it's certainly something that makes me excited about the next chapter, as well as getting to take this and use it outside the military context, where there's a lot less red tape one has to go through, you might say.
All right, very good. I know that we met probably 2.5, 3 years ago at a networking event in Kansas City. And in the time that you've been networking, have you had some aha, oh my gosh, moments as far as your expectations in communication?
Actually, it's funny enough. This is going to sound so simplistic, and everyone out there is going to shake their heads and be like, this dude should have already known that. But it goes back to having to figure out how to take the skills I have and market myself. And so I actually sat down a few months ago with Jim Meadows, our mutual friend.
Oh, yeah.
And he was actually asking me about, okay, what are the key components that you want to brand? And I was talking to him about the things that I feel very confident about, the things that I'm very passionate about, i.e., leadership, i.e., how to help leaders communicate, how to coach people. And he challenged me on how to actually put that into just easy use wording, which actually I threw into my card, which I'm sitting here in the hotel at Fort Knox actually right now. I got sent out to help U.S. Army Recruiting Command with their issues right now with recruiting. But it was just that was kind of an aha moment to me about, okay, yeah, even tell my story through my business cards. And again, things that are second nature to me and working with an organization. But the aha of, okay, yeah, it's take that and I actually have to focus it on me now. And that translates even into basic things like making sure I got out of the office on time to be here, right? Because there's always another mission. I mean, even yesterday I had another networking call, and I did tell my boss, look, I need to go now. So that's kind of my biggest aha, I think, is understanding this mission. The mission will go on, the Army will go on, but I will never get this time back.
Right. Very good. Very good.
And definitely, I appreciate all you've done. I mean, one thing I'm just so impressed about there, the curator of Kansas City Metro region, and one of the many things that draw Lori and I to want to stay here, is just that community. It's just amazing. People like you, people like Jim, who just kind of take you by the arm and pull you in and make you feel like, okay, yeah, you can do this.
Yep. The military support community is usually quite vibrant in the places that people go home to. It's just that it's very nichey. People aren't aware of what is available. And this is something that I saw when I first got to Kansas City, but I was networking a lot, building a business. And so I saw that there was a disconnect. I saw that there was plethora of resources and support, and just not well connected. So for those of us on the call who are not where I am, but where you are, I'm sure you probably have seen it where you are as well. There's support. Americans are patriotic, but sometimes they need a little help in learning how they can be supportive in that reintegration process. So I have another question for Mike. So Mike, you're in California, and it sounds like your operations are pretty local as far as what it is that you do. Do you know, or do you have awareness of similar organizations that do what you do in other locations, so that you have maybe like a network of connections in how your support kind of exceeds where you are geographically?
Not really. We've managed to connect with some other local organizations, like our local church does a pack event about once a month, and they send boxes. At one point, they had adopted one of the local Marine bases, Camp Pendleton, and they were sending cookies down there, and doing picnics for the families and things like that. But as far as larger organizations, Operation Homefront, and a couple others like that do things like we do. But unfortunately, I've noticed that as organizations get larger and if they need the paid staff and they need a full warehouse and they need these other things, now instead of the majority of the funds going to the cause, it's all going to overhead. And so I would be much more interested in trying to partner with others. The way we were incorporated, we can only do what we do in California. And so we have done things a little further out of our specific area. We've partnered with people in other communities that are fairly local. But if somebody in Texas, for example, where my vice president just moved to, if she wanted to do a PAC event there, it couldn't really be under our corporate umbrella because we're just in California. We would have to also incorporate in Texas or do something like that. So she can have people submit names and addresses. We just do all the activities here in California to get those boxes out.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So there are, multiple times in our various programs, a community organization or nonprofit will share their ability to support in a multitude of different geographic locations because they have chapters or branch offices and things of this nature. So it's good to know.
Our core group right now is about 8 to 10.
Okay. All right.
And to run a PAC day efficiently, I need 15 to 20. And usually we'll get enough people that will step up to be in those leadership roles during the PAC event, but then we don't hear from them the rest of the year.
Okay. All right. Are your events kind of planned out as far as you do them quarterly or semi-annually or?
Before COVID, we were doing about twice a year, usually one around May and the other in November. So the idea was getting packages to the troops by July 4th and by Christmas.
Okay.
But since COVID, we've been more once a year. And I'm hoping to get back. Actually, the last year before COVID, we did 3. We had done one in March, one in May, and one in November. So we were up to about 2,500 boxes a year before COVID kind of slowed things down.
Okay.
But even during COVID, we did a drive-through event. One week, people came through and grabbed an empty box and a sheet that told them how to fill it. The next week, they came back with a full box and $20 to ship it. And we managed to do 250 boxes from that event and another 250 from things that were donated through that event.
Okay.
So it ended
Very
up being
good.
pretty good.
Lance, did you have a question?
Emma, I would like to throw in a comment to what Mike was just saying. I'm a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution here in Kansas City, one of the chapters called Mission Hills. And we have had a lot of success in collecting things for veterans as well as for the people who are on active duty. I recently was appointed the chairman of one of those committees. And I got to tell you, they will, if you can reach out to somebody in your community, that there are numerous chapters throughout California that of the DAR that would certainly help you out a whole lot. And we've had things.
Well, that's a good network connection because the DAR are all over the country. Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We're a very patriotic group.
Okay. The timer has gone off, but Lance, you had your hand up before the time went off. Did you have a question? You're muted.
Chase, you're located in Kansas City. Is that accurate?
Yeah, sure am. I'm over in Lansing.
Okay. My question would be for you, or if anyone else knows, is like, are there any opportunities for civilians to help out? Like, is there a way that is there anything about, what it is that I do as a photographer that could help benefit either? So I have two questions. One, anybody who's active duty or anybody, public affairs or anything like that to help with the local military community, or B, what are some ways that you wish that someone could help support veterans? Like, what is something that you might like want me to know as a company who, or a company, a small business who wants to try and help, either if I could help with people who are active duty, if that's something that they could use, or my, local military could use, or B, the flip side then would be if we need to just to support veterans, what's something you would like to see or something that I could help with as far as that goes?
Oh, wow. That's what a generous question, Lance. Thanks. Especially for someone with your talent. I was actually looking at your website, and by the way, following me on LinkedIn while you're talking, because I really like your work.
Oh, thank you.
And there's, because I have a communication background, I understand the importance of headshots, and I probably need to get an updated one. Mine's about 2 years old, but so now I have another guy.
Yeah,
but I certainly with your expertise to be available there to help educate veterans on the importance of stuff like that. Have you ever heard of the Soldier for Life Transition Assistance Program?
No.
Okay, so Emma's familiar with it. I'm actually going through it right now, even here from Fort Knox. It's a process, a classroom-based process that everyone who's getting out of the military period, writ large across the entire joint force, has to go through. It's job training classes and financial training and understanding your VA benefits and stuff of that nature. And to my understanding, they're always open to having additional people from the community who have expertise to come in and share from their perspective, hey, here are things that you can do to help set yourself up. Because I can guarantee you, most people, especially junior ranking people getting out of the military, they don't understand like the importance of, like what you were saying, show me your face that says I want to engage with you and I want you to come in, versus the scowl face that we're kind of trained to put on, so I'll tell you what, I'll
Why don't you two connect? I do know, because I've done it myself, and with the SFL TAP up at Fort Leavenworth, arranging to do a workshop or a lunch and learn for their programs, or have it be a one-off opportunity to where it's available to them as an option for learning. So I can help you with that as far as the TAP Center at Leavenworth. Okay, we're going to move on because it is 5:30. We still have a few more things to go over before we wrap this up. Thank you for the questions and for those who contributed to the conversation. So we're going to move on to transition tips. Toops Consulting is focused on supporting students and adults in life, school, career, or business transitions. However, this segment of the program, I'm not going to talk about my business, but I am going to provide transition tips that are pertaining to the topic of the day, which is communication vehicles. So I'll provide some insights and perspective regarding paradigm shifts pertaining to communication vehicles. So what is communication? We've talked about it a little bit kind of throughout the program so far, and it's essentially the act or process for imparting or interchanging thoughts, opinions, or information. And this can be done through various means. We've seen that, various methods or vehicles. And in that picture that was on that slide, it had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways to communicate. So written, electronic, verbal, visual, and body language are what this slide shows. But the picture doesn't include music or photography per se. See, what this slide doesn't explain is that communication has a feedback loop that affects whether the message was received in the way it was intended. So how people interpret meaning for words or images, other stimuli or data that they encounter is based on their worldview, their beliefs, their knowledge of the information, and any past experience. So these things are always kind of the basis for comparison for their initial understanding when they're encountering new information. Now, new meaning might be assigned or new information gained when the communicator has the ability to influence trust. Now, so this is something Lance mentioned in his remarks. So the paradigm shift that I want you all to make is to understand that effective communication is gained through trust in the source. When you don't already have trust in the source, it can be opened up the easiest through emotion. Okay, this is why music and photography was included in our panel today. For some people, words move them on initial contact because they're word people. For others, those words might require a melody, a tone, a certain pitch, something low or something high may or may not turn on or off somebody. There may be a volume, pitch, or pace that moves them more than others. So someone who's monotone usually doesn't grab a lot of people's attention because it's really boring. It sounds like this, right? So for others, words don't connect as easily, but pictures do. You know, some people are more visual. So if you can touch a person emotionally in how you communicate with them, in whatever vehicle or method that you choose, the likeliness of their understanding your intended message will improve because they're paying attention to you or they're interested. Okay. So what does communication mean in the military community? Lance was kind of alluding to this a little bit in his remarks. Okay. In that environment, people are familiar with the rules, behaviors, the languages and routines inherent to operating in that environment. There's a rank and organizational structure in the military, and there are tools, equipment, and systems that are familiar to most of us, right? GPS, the radio, computer, and phone, even things like an op order, which is a way for receiving instructions formally, a sit rep, which is a situation report that just gives you updates, and even the military decision-making process for those who are involved in planning, okay? In the military, fire and forget in communications is never what we do, even though these things are in place within the structure of the organization. We follow up, we supervise, we make on-the-spot corrections, and we verify assumptions. And this is, like I said, in an environment where we understand the rules, the standards, the language, behaviors, and routines. When you're in transition, you need to be much more aware of how and with what means you are communicating to others. Are the messages that you are sending, consciously or not, to the people who will receive you, are they perceiving your message in the way that you intend or correctly? In the non-military community, you're going to be in a much more diverse environment for who people are, what they know or understand, the languages that they speak, the jargon that they may understand, the way that they behave, and the standards for performance and success. So communications is absolutely crucial. What message are you sending in your nonverbal communication through your posture, your facial expressions, your appearance with clothing, your personal hygiene, or your physical wellness? What messages are you sending in your voice, how it sounds, the tone, the pace, the melody, the pitch, the volume? What messages are you sending with the information you share or do not share when you speak or use another vehicle of communication? What messages are you sending in how you engage and respond with others in the various settings of social, community, business, family, or online? Good communication is always necessary. How you're doing it and what results are you getting, though, vary. So don't expect that the snafus or the miscommunications that might be occurring are one-sided. Is it a misunderstanding on your side or the other person? Very often it probably could be both. Whose responsibility is it to change someone's understanding of you if they misunderstand? It's your responsibility. If you understand that they've misunderstood you, right? You have to change their mind if what they understand is not correct, or maybe it's generalized and they think they understand you better than they actually do. You need to ask for clarification. What do you actually mean, right? If there's any potential for assumptions to be made, you want to verify your assumptions because you may be the one who has misunderstood something. Be willing to be transparent with people that you're not up to speed with the language, with the behaviors, with the systems, the processes of whatever is routine. Things that are routine don't normally disrupt people's thinking because they're routine, right? For the most part, it's the hey you and oh shit stuff of the day that kind of you pay attention to, right? When you ask a question, you're doing a hey you, right? It triggers an emotion. Someone is paying attention to that, and it opens a door for assigning new meaning or learning something entirely new. And that oh shit, it may be on their part because they have misunderstood you. Okay. So networking relies on good communication, and you're meeting new people all the time and you're creating relationships. Are you communicating accurately? What methods are you using? Maybe you need to be a little bit more diverse in what you're doing, or maybe change how you are doing things. So if you need help with a certain method of communication, access the community for experts. The Purple Connection is a community of organizations and business professionals who want to and can help expedite gaining knowledge and access to resources and opportunities. Be cognizant of what gaps you have in your knowledge or behaviors and seek out the appropriate experts to help you. All right, we will move on to the wrapping up of the event. So, how might you get involved as far as the American Warriors? Okay, if you're interested in continuing to participate more intentionally in some of these facilitated conversations on various topics, I invite you to consider becoming a member of the ACA Business Club and the American Warriors. Being a member of the club affords you with a lot of benefits. You have access to any of our club facilities wherever they happen to be. We have 5 of them here in Kansas City Metro, but we also have them in other cities around the country, and even a couple of them that are getting ready to stand up in places overseas. There are over 20 interest groups. American Warriors is only about 1. You can join a business development team. You have access to all of the organized and sponsored club events and be a directory for everyone who is a member here, there, and anywhere. And there are multitude opportunities of learning and networking every single week, and leadership opportunities for teams, groups, or clubs as you wish if you would like to step up to leadership. The opportunities to engage in the American Warriors interest group. There's the Purple Connection and Strengths Profile workshops that are sponsored and conducted by me in my business. There's the American Warriors Discussion Roundtable that is every month on the 4th Thursday. The social and guest speaker program is semi-annual. And then also opportunities to step up to a leadership role within the interest group at the executive committee level or at the club committee level. Next slide. Future events for the interest group. American Warriors Discussion Group this month is next week. The topic of the day is going to be risk management. So it's a little bit like a mastermind. And so I facilitate conversation about what that might mean to people, because that might mean different things to different people based on their environment and where they are in their transition. The Integrative Strengths Profile workshop is now on demand. So if you as an individual or a group that you are in would like to learn a little bit more about the Strengths Profile assessment, we can do that as a one-on-one or a Zoom or in-person event on demand. And then the Purple Connection, which is this event, is every 3rd Thursday of the month on Zoom. Next slide. I want everyone to save the date of August 25th, especially if you are here in Kansas City. This is going to be an in-person event and in Overland Park. it is the first part of the event is social, and then the second part of the event is a guest speaker program with 5 veteran guest speakers who will share their transition story. For those of you who are not local to Kansas City, we will be recording the program, so you will be able to see that part of the event once we have that available to share. Next slide. TPC referrals coming up second week or so of August, Tuesday and Wednesday morning. You can sign up for a session, and this is to be an appointment to meet with me and up to 3 others in kind of like a speed networking opportunity. There's 2 rounds, where the first round is an introduction. You ask for something in particular as far as a connection objective that you are gaining more information. You need some resource, or maybe someone in the particular market that you don't know who the expert is. And in the second round, everybody responds to the asks from the first round and offer referrals, opportunities, and guidance. So the email invitation for that will be going out probably in the next week or so. Next month's Purple Connection lineup, that program is going to be on equine therapy. Our veteran entrepreneur is Patrick Benson. He is the co-founder and executive director for Horse, and he is a professional horseman. The organization is For Horses for Veterans. Our community organization will be represented by Lisa Botenhausen. She is a board member and certified equine specialist for Horses and Heroes. Our military-friendly company representative will be Rachel Wilby Green. She is a licensed trauma and stress clinician, and she is in private practice and supports Horses and Heroes in her practice. And then I will be offering transition tips. Contact me for any information that you may have missed or are interested in getting involved in the community here in Kansas City or in my network somewhere, wherever there may be resources available. And I will help you out as best I can as far as who is the expert you need to get connected to. Next slide, last slide. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know we went just a little bit long. We really appreciate your contributions and your participation in the Purple Connection. Continue to share what we're doing. Invite people who you know may get value for being part of the community. They may need help, or they are an expert in the community who is supportive. And we look forward to seeing you at a future event. Have a very good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.